Joining me in studio now is the Zimbabwe Olympic Committee Chief Executive Officer, that is Marlene Gadzrai. Marlene, good morning, and thank you for waking up and joining us this morning. I know you had planned a trip, but you decided to pop in before your thick, so we appreciate. Good morning.
Good morning, Tej. How are you?
I'm fantastic. We're getting to the end of 2024, and I know for ZOC in particular, 2024 was probably was a very big year. It's when you guys are in the spotlight, particularly with the Paris Games that Zimbabwe sent a couple of athletes there. Maybe just as a quick reflection, how would you summarize the year as the Olympic Committee?
I think before we get to the Paris Olympics, I would just want to highlight that we hosted the Athletes Forum for Zone 6, which is for the 10 countries in Southern Africa. This was the first in Africa, and we hosted it in Victoria Falls, where we had a number of various countries' athletes commissions. So these are basically the athletes' representatives talking a lot about what they feel, how they are looking at sport and administration. So just hearing from their voices, from the horse's mouth as the athletes themselves, which was a very big first for Africa, and this has now will then become an annual event as we rotate on a rotational basis within Zone 6. And then, of course, the highlight was the Olympics, the 7 athletes that we had in the Olympics, with a lot of personal bests of Danielson Cipriano's page as well. Unfortunately, Rutendo did not finish her race, but then she's back and she's training as well. Isaac Mpofu coming out 19th, being in the top 20 marathoners in the world. And, of course, at the 200-meter sprint with Charamba and Makarao, I think that was a really, really big highlight for us as the Olympic Committee. So I think it was quite a good outing. Of course, we did not get medals, but I believe that it's something that we definitely are then building on, just to start preparing both for the Youth Olympics in 2026 and then Los Angeles 2028. I
know this has been your sort of first full year as Chief Executive Officer at ZOC, and obviously Paris would have been a big highlight. I mean, from an administrative and operational standpoint, what are some of the takeaways for you when you got to go to Paris and maybe interact and see how other countries run their Olympic teams and just the whole process of organizing large-scale events like that?
I think, first of all, it has been quite a busy year for me, a first year, but, just jumping right into it and going to the Olympics. But I think the biggest lessons was at the Olympics, learning from other national Olympic committees, getting to hear how they prepare their athletes, and also getting to talk to some of the athletes. Some are, big celebrities, but, they're humbling themselves, just talking about, their training routines and getting to know how they do their stuff back home. So I think for me it was so much a learning curve, just to say, okay, so if South Africa does this, why can't we do the same? If the USA does this, why can't we do the same? Particularly looking at, the welfare of the athletes, the mental health, the mental health issues, that are very important in sport. You're looking at safe sport, safeguarding, anti-doping issues. Of course, we're happy we did not have any issues around that, but just to make sure that we are always on top of our game. But, just to make sure that the athletes are our priority, making sure that we track them, we support them in particular, and making sure that their nutrition is on point, their coaching as well. So I was also looking at, the types of coaches that other nations had. Of course, we, in athletics, we had in track and field for Charamba and Makarao. Their coaches came from the USA. They were, Ken Hunton in Zimbabwe, but he's based in the USA, and he's Charamba's coach. So getting to just understand what it means to have a high-level coach. So it's just the ecosystem around the athletes that I really learned about how important it is to make sure that we're always on top of our game.
And obviously, we had a relatively small team of those 7 athletes. What plans are there in terms of, obviously, ZOC is not a standalone association. I think you have to collaborate with different NSAs from across the different sporting codes. What are some of the plans now going forward as we start looking ahead? Because obviously you came in right at the tail end. Right. I think most of the athletes had qualified already deep in their qualifying journey. As we head towards LA 2028, how does ZOC plan to be collaborating with the national sports associations to make sure that we can grow and develop athletes that can go and represent us, and maybe even have a team qualify and have more individual athletes in LA 28? Like, what are the building blocks for that?
Right. So, first of all, is the initial 7 athletes that we had in Paris. We had conversations with them just to find out if they would want to work towards LA 2028. Some of them actually said, we want to do this. So what we're doing is we're looking at their progress and doing our best to support them. Of note is Makarao. He actually broke another record in Kentucky 2 days ago. So they're not coming home for Christmas. They're already in training. And what we're doing is to just, hear from them what exactly their needs are, their coaching needs are. And we've also then started collaborating with Brian Zingai, who's out in the USA. He's also doing a lot of scouting for us through the National Athletics Association of Zimbabwe, because we've also then decided to look, and zone in on a number of sporting disciplines that we're good at, and those that are consistently qualifying for the Olympics, and athletics is one of them. So it's just making sure that we have these names on our radar, and then working with the federations as well. We have swimmers as well that are coming up, because also before LA 2028 we're also looking at Youth Olympics in 2026, which also becomes a stepping stone to the Olympics in LA 2028. So we've also started working with federations. Happy Days cricket is also going to be an Olympic sport in LA 2028. So we're also just keeping a close eye on how Zimbabwe is performing at different arenas. So we'd also be happy to see both the chevrons and the lady chevrons qualifying. Having a team at the Olympics is very, very important. We've seen the under 17 soccer team playing in COSAFA at Olympics. Is the under 23 men's team that qualify. So we're just keeping our eyes open and communicating and collaborating with the federations to make sure that we really look at these athletes and make sure that they qualify at the Olympics as well.
And before, obviously, we get to 2028, we do have the Youth Olympics in 2026.
Yes.
What's the strategy towards that, and how does that feed into a longer vision of 28?
Right. So the Youth Olympics, this is for 15 to 18-year-olds. They should be 15 to 18 in 2026. So we've received long lists from the federations that we work with of their under 14 athletes, and what we're now doing is to zone in and look at their potential for qualification. And so before 2026 we have the African Youth Games in 2025 in Angola in December. So we are still to get confirmation, but that could also be a qualifying competition for some of the sport codes, just as what happened with the African Games in Ghana, where 6 of the sport codes were qualifiers for the Olympics in 2024. So our issue is just looking at that roadmap and saying, okay, so give us your best athletes, the best junior athletes, and then let's see how we can assist them, particularly in supporting them in also going for qualifiers or bigger competitions, because exposure is really necessary, especially at such young ages, because you're looking at 14-year-olds. These are Form 1s and Form 2s, so just making sure that let's have them competing. Of note is what's been happening in tennis. You've got your under 14 Kuzvaishi Chapepe. She was number 1 in Africa at some point, but just to make sure that she continues interacting and competing with other athletes at her level, and not just zoning them in within Zimbabwe, but just to make sure that there's a lot more exposure. So that's how we are planning to work with them, and we definitely need a lot of support, especially corporate sponsorship for them, because it takes a lot of investment. That's another lesson from the Olympics. It's a lot of money that's invested in athletes, and for us to get to the podium, we have to take this as a journey, not just wait just for them to be on the stage and then expect miracles or wonders at that level.
I know towards Paris 2024, there was quite a bit of corporate support coming in. I remember Nedbank and other corporates coming in. Are those relationships continuing, or we're having to restart and maybe try and create new strategies around how we can monetize and support our athletes from a commercial perspective?
So those relationships, we have decided to leverage on them especially with Nedbank, and who really supported Isaac, and looking at where Isaac is. And Isaac is also part of the Nedbank Elite Athletes Club. He went to the Honde Valley Marathon and won gold there. So it's just making sure that there is a value proposition that we're also giving to these corporates, because there's always a need for return on investment. So what do we get out of this? And so it's just about showing that, you know, this is where the athletes are and this is what they achieved, and then let's continue. This is the journey, and we have already started conversations with a number of corporates, and we're just hoping that more will come on board because, you know, every little cent counts.
All right. I do understand you're about to go off on holiday, but let's talk about 2025 and focus on the work that ZOC will be doing on home. So I know it's not just about the athletes. I know there's quite a bit of community stuff that you guys do. Maybe just shed light on that in terms of what people can expect from ZOC going into the new year.
That's quite an interesting question because every time people ask, so what do you guys do in the Olympics?
I wasn't gonna. I want you to come back next time, so I wasn't gonna phrase it like that. I tried to package it nicely.
For 2025, and this is an annual thing that we do. We have an advanced sports management course that we offer to sport administrators. So there is school that happens at ZOC. We also have sport administration courses that are tailor-made for different sporting disciplines or different sporting administrators. For example, this year we had the uniformed forces coming for a sport administration course as well. And then we're looking into issues around anti-doping because we are the de facto national anti-doping organization in Zimbabwe. So we're going all out in terms of education and awareness. We have some sport codes, for example, cricket and football, where we do in and out of competition testing as well as rugby. So that's also part of our mandate. We work on that as well. And then we also look into the SDGs as well. That's a very big mandate of ZOC. We're looking at sustainability, we're looking at tree planting, we're looking at issues around climate. So all these things because they are part of the ecosystem of sport. So that's also very much a very big mandate of ours as well.
All right, sounds like, I'm answered. You actually do something when we're not trying to qualify for the Olympics. But Marlene, thank you for joining us. I understand you have to travel. I don't know if we'll see each other before Christmas, but if we don't, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and travel safe. And yeah, let's see each other on the top end of 2025.
Konapo, ipapo, ba ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.